let's start from where we left off last time. Right here. Before I knew it, she came up behind me, taken the coffee cup from my hand, and looked at me with moist eyes. My heart raced. Everything that had happened with her, it all started that night. Robert Thompson. Just as I was about to sit on the waiting room couch, my name was called. The voice sounded somewhat curt. Was it because I was late for my scheduled time? It's not like I wanted to be late. I told them in advance I'd leave on time because I had a dentist appointment, but my manager, Amy, held me back. She always does this on purpose. Darn that female boss, Amy. I rushed into the examination room, where the dentist was impatiently looking at my x-ray. It's not a cavity. It's not. While sitting on the examination chair, I blurted out in surprise. The pain in your tooth is due to clenching. It's not just grinding your teeth while you sleep, but you're constantly clenching your teeth unconsciously. Are you under any stress at work or something? He hit the nail on the head. I'll give you some painkillers again, but be aware and try not to clench your teeth. I was stunned. So, when humans feel stressed, they have a habit of clenching their teeth, and clenching them constantly can cause them to ache. Most of my stress comes from my female boss, Amy. After all, she has the mentality that a subordinate's success is her success, but their failures are their own. She throws a fit if things don't go her way, and she constantly nitpicks. She has a knack for making snide remarks to subordinates she doesn't like. The fact that my toothache might be because of the boss. The dentist's office was on the 3rd floor of a 27-story mixed-use building located nearby my office. I finished my checkup just after 7:30 in the evening. I waited for the elevator, planning to eat dinner in the underground food court. Unusually, there was no one else around. When the descending elevator arrived, "Is the first floor okay for you?" I wanted to say basement floor, but what came out was a simple yes. She probably works for a company located in this building. We had shared the elevator a few times before. She's a stunning beauty. I mean, drop-dead gorgeous. She always stands by the control panel, holding the open button for everyone to get on and off, then quickly presses the close button before exiting. I had secretly nicknamed her Elevator Lady, and always looked forward to catching a glimpse of her in the elevator. But I never expected to run into her after my dentist appointment, and to have a moment alone with her. I found myself wishing the elevator would just stop for some reason, when suddenly, I felt a strong jolt from below. It's an earthquake. The elevator has actually stopped. The lights went out, and the emergency lights turned on. At the same time, my right arm was suddenly yanked tight. She, in her shock, had grabbed onto my bicep with both her hands. I was frozen, unable to move, just standing there. It felt like a long time. But in reality, it was only a few seconds, maybe several. Then, the elevator began moving again, stopping at the nearest floor, and the doors opened. "It's okay now, let's get out." She quickly let go of my arm. Then, blushing, she said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and gave a nod. We both exited the elevator side by side. She nodded again and began to walk away. "Excuse me." Before I could think, I had called out to her. She stopped and looked back at me, and I said, "If you'd like, maybe we could grab a meal together." She looked puzzled and tilted her head. "You know, since we both got scared, but I guess that's a bit forward, isn't it?" I felt like I was about to burst into flames. I've never tried picking up anyone before. "Do you think the restaurants are still open after that quake?" And so, we headed to the underground food court. The places were still operating as usual. Wanting to impress, I chose an upscale-looking sushi restaurant. "I'm sorry about earlier." For what?" "For grabbing onto your arm." "Don't worry about it, it's not a big deal." She continued, a little shyly, with a smile on her face. It's been a while since I did that. I used to do it all the time as a kid. I would just cling onto anyone without thinking, but when I was 6 or 7, I'd get separated from my parents at a fair. I thought I was holding onto my dad's pants in the crowd, but it turned out to be a stranger. So, you got lost because of that? When I asked, she replied, yes, it was a college-aged guy. He took me to a lost children's area and stayed with me until my parents came. I clung to his arm the whole time. I started to say, you must have been, but I caught my words, hinting that she must have been adorable. My dad scolded me a lot afterward. He said grabbing people's arms like that is a sign of being spoiled. Don't rely on others, stand on your own 2 feet, he told me, and that's when I tried to break the habit of clinging to people. So, was today the first time since then? Curious, I asked, and she playfully responded, who knows, but anyway, I'm glad I wasn't alone, and she smiled warmly. After that, the conversation drifted to a recent visit to the dentist because of a toothache that wasn't a cavity. We also talked about how our work stress must definitely be because of our bosses. Before I realized it, I was talking more than I usually did. It's not just my current boss. Ever since I was born, there's always been a woman in a position above me. My sisters are 5 and 3 years older than me, and throughout elementary, middle, and high school, all my teachers were women. Even at my part-time jobs, all my bosses have been women. Are you afraid of women or something? No, I don't see it that way. It's just that. Just what? Back in my school days, I had this female friend. She'd often invite me out to drink and stuff. I'd get my hopes up, thinking something might happen, but in the end, she'd say something like, "You're just a safe bet to me." She listened to my lighthearted story with a smile on her face. Every once in a while, she'd brush her hair behind her ear with her right hand. I noticed a small mole on the back of her hand, right around where the base of her thumb is. Are you sure you're okay with it? She had suggested splitting the bill, but I declined, saying, I was the one who invited you. We had forgotten to even exchange names. I couldn't tell her that I'd seen her around before. Thank you so much for today, and for treating me to dinner. No problem. Thank you too. She walked toward the train station, looking back and waving 2 or 3 times. Each time, I wanted to call out to her. I wanted to stop her and exchange contact details. But I thought, maybe I'd be bothering her or she might reject me. With those thoughts, I couldn't muster the courage to speak up. Waving back was all I could manage. Anyway, I'll see her again in the elevator like always. That's what I reassured myself with internally. And as I watched her leave, I realized I was clenching my teeth. Simultaneously, the words of my dentist echoed in my mind. Be conscious not to clench your teeth. From then on, with a strong desire to meet her again, I'd find reasons to slip out of work and head to that building next to our office. But for some reason, I never bumped into her in the elevator again. Then, one day, "Hey, Robert." While I was working on an urgent task at my desk, I was called by the laid-back voice of Amy. When I reached her office, "You're being transferred to our subsidiary." Amy, with a faint smile, handed me the notice of my job reassignment. Look, it's that underperforming company. Being sent to such a low-level company, I really feel for you, but maybe it's just right for someone like you. Anyway, use that little brain of yours and make sure the handover is smooth, okay? My successor was a man from the department next to mine, newly hired mid-career. When the handover process began, he was quick to grasp things and had a pleasant demeanor. He was also fairly well received by our clients. My only concern was that he seemed a bit timid. 2 weeks later, I started at the subsidiary I was assigned to. The commute took about 20 minutes longer than before, but it was manageable. However, because I was unfamiliar with the train line, I barely made it on time that day. Panting, I rushed into the building's elevator. Our office was on the 7th floor. As I reached to press the elevator button for the 7th floor, I noticed the light for that floor was already lit. Going to the 7th floor, I was addressed by a woman standing in front of the control panel. I replied with a nod and looked up at her. What? Why? It was her, the woman from that night of the earthquake. It was a small building. Each floor was occupied by just one company. I've been working for the company on this floor for about a month now. Oh, really? Are you Robert, by any chance? Yes. I had heard someone was being sent here from the parent company. I finally understood the situation from what she said. For a moment, I was taken aback, thinking, could such a coincidence really happen? I'm Emily, the head of Sales Division 1, Team 3 at your new assignment. Unbelievable. She was my new boss. I later found out that the company I was transferred to had business dealings with the company she had worked for until a month ago. Her previous company was a small one, just a tad bigger than a sole proprietorship. The owner of that company had gotten old and decided to shut it down. So, my new company recognized her talents and recruited her. After you. When the elevator reached the 7th floor, she pressed the close button and motioned for me to exit first. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I caught her giving me a warm smile. Thus began my new chapter in life, but our relationship remained strictly professional. Then, one day, she uncharacteristically raised her voice on the phone, saying things like, "That's why it's impossible. At the very least, you need to go through HR." Before hanging up, I approached her with some documents I needed to submit and asked, "Is everything okay?" "No, it's nothing major. I'm sorry for raising my voice." She was clearly flustered. I was curious, but I didn't press further and left her office. At that moment, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a call from a colleague from my old department. I stepped out into the hallway to answer. "Yes, this is Rob. Hey, we've got a situation here." Despite saying it's serious, that voice sounded oddly amused. "Weren't you having a phone dispute over there just now?" Yeah, kinda." The boss called. That guy Jack, he up and quit the company. Jack was my successor, and I was concerned about his timid nature. So the boss lady is fuming, yelling, "What's going on? How can he be so irresponsible? Doesn't anyone know? Guess it's your fault, huh?" It was the first I'd heard that Jack had become the boss's target. "Yeah, he took over right from you." I genuinely felt bad for him, but as I was wondering why the boss had called in the first place, my former colleague explained. "Since he left so suddenly, we don't have anyone to fill his spot, so they tried to bring you back here for the time being, but you turned them down flat. Amy is steaming mad right now." It all clicked, and I went back into the room. Our eyes met. I felt the need to thank her and gave a nod of appreciation. It didn't take me long to adjust to the new workplace. Perhaps due to the absence of the previous stressors, even my toothache ceased to bother me. Most importantly, work became fun. Of course, because seeing Emily at work was a highlight. And she truly was a catch, always efficient at her job. And providing clear instructions to us, her subordinates. Yet, she never acted arrogant. A stark contrast to that bossy lady back at my old place. The vulnerable image I had of her from that night of the earthquake was nowhere to be found. My secret feelings for her only grew. But I thought they were just unattainable dreams. However, oh, my wallet. On my way home from work and about to hop on the subway, I realized I forgot my wallet at the office. In a rush, I headed back to the company to find Emily there alone. Elbows on the desk and her head cradled in her hands. "You are still here?" "Oh, yeah, just lost in thought." "What brings you back, Robert?" "Left my wallet." "I see." I grabbed my forgotten wallet from the drawer and asked her if she was leaving soon. "Maybe I should." "Wait up, let's head out together." With that, the two of us got in the elevator. "I hope it doesn't get stuck again," she murmured, looking up at the elevator's floor indicator. When I turned to her, she was already looking at me. Is it okay? I wasn't sure what she meant by okay. The next moment, she suddenly gripped my arm tightly. Much like that night of the earthquake. But this time, even after we stepped out of the elevator and began walking, she didn't let go of my arm. My previous company was a small place. I was persuaded to join this one, but being a manager and leading people, it's quite a challenge. It seems that even she, who always appears confident at work, feels the pressure. How about grabbing some dinner? I was thinking the same, but I have two conditions. Suddenly, she let go of my arm and took on a serious demeanor, just like at work. What are they? We'll split the bill. Okay. And no sushi places. Got it. She shrugged and let out a soft chuckle. Actually, I'm not a fan of raw fish. So, you pushed yourself that other night. Yes, I thought, why not? You treated me after all. We both laughed heartily. As we laughed, she grabbed my arm again, resting her head on my shoulder. She chose a barbecue place near the station. A man and a woman, just the two of us, at a barbecue joint. My heart raced, but she seemed completely unbothered. First, we toasted with draft beers. I glanced at her right hand as she held her mug. I was staring at a mole near the base of her thumb on the back of her hand. What? She noticed where I was looking and seemed puzzled. Oh, that mole on your hand. Yeah, I've been self-conscious about it before. What about the mole? Well, actually, me too. Saying this, I showed her the palm of my left hand. Look, right here. Oh my. On the palm of my left hand, I also had a mole near the base of my thumb. She laid her right hand over my extended left one. It's a perfect match, almost the same spot. See, she playfully looked at our overlapping hands and said, matching the lines of our palms, it's like fate or something. She made a cheeky face, sticking out her tongue in jest. And so, we began dating. Of course, we never mixed our personal and professional lives. However, our colleagues seemed to have had an inkling about us. Then, about a year and a half later, an unexpected announcement was made. Firstly, the head of the department I was previously in, Manager Williams. The HR department, concerned about the high turnover rate of employees under her direct supervision, conducted interviews and found out about Amy's arrogant behavior. She was removed from her director position and relegated to a less significant role. Then, Emily was chosen as her successor. Transferring from a subsidiary, it was truly a promotion for her. I was chosen to fill Emily's previous role. From tomorrow, we'll be in different departments at work. We can't help it. Anyway, let's start from where we left off the other day. Here, now. Why not? She smiled mischievously. I couldn't suppress the bubbling feelings anymore. Once she sets her mind on something, she won't listen. She took the coffee cup from my hand. I extended my now empty left hand towards her. She placed her right hand over mine. Our palm lines match. It's like fate. The toaster dinged. That's it for now. The toast is ready. Darn. She and I took turns cooking. That day, it was my turn to prepare breakfast, so I was in the kitchen. We had started living together. By the way, the reason we were moved to separate departments is the company's policy that married couples can't be in the same department. Yes. We were newlyweds, fresh into our marriage. Let's continue from where we left off. Come on, let's. My beloved Emily was repeatedly trying to get my attention. Naturally, I presented the palm of my left hand in front of Emily. Then, Emily playfully slapped it away. What's the matter? Still half asleep. It was Emily's voice that made me realize I'd dozed off and had been dreaming of our newlywed days. The sensation of Emily's hand tapping mine brought me back to reality. About the other day, I mumbled, and Emily picked up on it. She gently placed her right hand over my left. Look at us, we've sure aged, haven't we? She looked at her hand with wrinkle and smiled. We've been married for almost 20 years now. Oh, found another gray hair. Let me continue from the other day. Saying that, she began plucking out my gray hairs. It was just after 3 days since she found the gray hairs.